whichever way you want to transition, the more information you have from the people who do it, the better, right? And so someone who is a server who may kind of like it, want to shift out, if I put on a server who's doing a great job, maybe you take tips like how do you manage the cognitive load of a supervisor or manager trying to get you to work late hours? You're like, well, here's how I did it so that I can manage my free time and my peace. And I would recommend someone who wants to come into the serving industry to do these things to save your sanity. Hello, my name is George Roots, and I'm here hosting Career Curious. I am joined by Doug Flott.
Hello.
Doug, I guess we want to introduce yourself and maybe where you're located, what you do, and who you work for.
Of course, yeah. So I'm located in Atlanta, Georgia. I currently work for a medical device manufacturing company. We sell sleep apnea tests. So basically what my team does is we ship the sleep apnea test out and we diagnose patients with sleep apnea, and just make sure we start from the beginning of the process. So we get an order from a hospital or a clinic, and then we get that order is a patient. We ship a sleep apnea test called a WatchPat 1 to the patient, and we basically facilitate their testing until they've completed it. My role is team lead at this company for WatchPat Direct. WatchPat Direct is a team inside of the company. So we ship all the sleep apnea tests, as well as perform outreach on these different patients that are, in the process of taking their sleep apnea tests, to, diagnose them and, get the sleep care that they need to, be able to get that full 8 hours of sleep every night or whatever they need.
Yeah, that sounds quite interesting. I think I probably could use one of those tests. So I guess how long have you been doing that?
I've been working for this company for 3 years. So started out in August of 2021. Started out as a WatchPat Direct administrator, which essentially is the team or part of the team that ships the tests. And then I moved up to team lead about a year and a half after that. So I've been in my current role for about a year and a half.
Okay, so I guess what does a typical week look like for you? How do your Mondays start?
So for our team, Mondays usually are busier. We get a lot of orders over the weekend. That's simply due to the fact that we have a lot of accounts. We call them accounts that add orders in over the weekend because our accounts are located all across the country. So we have a lot of West Coast accounts that they add after we leave on Fridays, and they also work over the weekend. So that means on Mondays, we are, we're busier than usual. Sometimes we're jam-packed. It's been a little slower lately, but Mondays usually start out strong, very heavy, or work heavy, and then kind of dies down towards Friday. And so later on in the week, I have more time to work on, projects outside of shipping, or outside of, running the shipping or facilitating the shipping, and more on working on projects that can, help the team improve the efficiency and workflow of the team.
Gotcha. Yeah, that sounds intense early, but it gets better as the week goes on.
For sure, yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm not sure if this question is totally applicable, but you can tell me, what is something that you've done, I guess, recently in your role that you're proud of?
Okay. A great question. I would say the one thing I've done recently that I'm proud of is create an audit process for our uploads. So let me give you a little explanation of what that is. So uploads essentially come from WatchPat 300 devices, and we call them reusable sleep apnea tests. So we can send this device out to a patient, and they have to send the device back for us to upload the study into their profile on their platform that they were added in on. by the hospital. So we get the device, when you ship the device, the 300 device out, we receive it back, and then the first thing that you do is clean it and then upload. And then once we, start that uploading process, or once we get the device back, the uploads usually occur within a day. So we have a specific person that uploads every day, uploads all these sleep tests. Before, 2 weeks ago, we did not have an audit process at all. So the issue that I was trying to fix was incomplete and incorrect uploads and studies that were being uploaded incorrectly. There was no process to really catch those. And it was really taking a toll on the team, taking a lot of time and energy. And, we could have been definitely using our time towards something else, but instead we're getting caught up in these uploads. So what I'm proud of is creating an uploading process to, start checking, a certain amount of uploads every day. And what that has produced is, a considerable drop in the amount of failed tests that we receive for these reusable devices. So in turn, we have more time to focus on other projects. The accounts are happier. My bosses are happier. Of course, I'm happier. It just makes work a lot easier and stress-free, or less stress-free, when you know that something's being done right. And I'm proud of myself for, pushing for it and getting it set up to be able to happen.
Absolutely. I think becoming more efficient and making the people around you more efficient has to always feel great.
Yes.
I guess adversely, what are some of your current challenges in your day to day, or in that you forecast coming in the next month or so? Like what are the hard things you have to deal with?
But the harder things that I have to deal with are definitely, I think the top one right now is training. So we have a new team in San Jose, California, to cover the West Coast shipments that we ship out. So the hardest part is training people who are halfway across, or literally across the United States. So all you can do is Zoom calls to, train these people, these employees over there. And it's difficult to really articulate, different processes sometimes over Zoom. It goes a lot easier when you're a person. So things get lost in translation. Maybe you don't explain things well enough, or the other person doesn't really understand, and they don't really say anything. So then it turns into this situation where a week later you train this person on something, and you have to explain it to them, 3, 4, 5 times again. So I definitely think that's the biggest challenge that I'm working on right now, and I foresee it being an issue for another month or two. So that's definitely the top one. I would say another issue that I'm personally dealing with at work is lack of a mentor / person to look for development. So for context, over the past 2 years, my boss and I have had this kind of, mentor-mentee relationship. But I've noticed over the past year, I just haven't really got a lot out of it. Or I've noticed that I haven't really, the person, my mentor hasn't really put a lot of time and effort into it, which I totally get. I understand. But that, I don't want to work and not be, work on developing myself. So the challenge is, finding someone else to be that person in place of my mentor, to be able to, keep developing myself, steer me in the right direction, be there for questions if I have them. What am I looking forward to, and step up a role that, takes a step up. because right now my career path is something managerial, and that's why I chose my boss previously to, develop, to help me develop my leadership skills. But now, I'm left looking for somebody else.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That does lead into one of my questions. I think that's something that you and I can probably talk about offline. I do love leadership, management, and things like that. So, um, but I guess that does lead me to one of my next questions, which is, well, let's go back in time first, and then we'll move forward. Uh, so, what was your role before you were team lead again?
I was a server in a restaurant.
No. In the company before team lead.
Oh, okay. I was a WatchPat Direct administrator.
Okay, so you were a server in a restaurant. How'd you make the transition to the company? Like, did you need to know anything about CPAP machines, or did you need to know? I guess what was your interest? Like, how do you transition?
So, I mean, I love sleep, first of all. And
Yeah.
I guess what got me interested in was I know I didn't want to serve anymore. I liked, the idea of, being one of the people that helped treat sleep apnea, especially, during peak COVID, back in 2021. It was a huge business and was growing a lot. And the company that I joined had, this exponential growth that I didn't like before I started. I was researching a little bit. It was crazy. Business jumped up, threefold for them after COVID hit. So I saw that, I knew somebody that worked at the company that, approached me and, let me know about this opportunity with the company. And so I was interested in it, wanted to get out of serving and went ahead and applied. I will say I didn't know a lot about sleep apnea before I started there. So I had to research, before interviewing. I had to research before interviewing about the job, the company, of course, and then the position. But lucky enough for me, they were growing so fast that they were desperate for, employees. So it really wasn't a hard, interview process to get into it as far as like what you need to know knowledge wise. But it was definitely a huge change moving from industry to industry, from the service industry to med tech.
So I guess, how'd you know that you want to move to the team lead position? Did that come with more responsibilities?
Yes. So I had a colleague who also was a WatchPat Direct administrator when I first started, named Steve, and we got in pretty close as coworkers, and he got selected to be a team lead at one point while we were working together, and he had really good ideas and like did implement some different processes during his time, and I just really I appreciated him for standing up for our team, and there were certain times where he had to stand up for us as far as like workflow that was being proposed, different workflow changes that were being proposed, and even our pay. This person fought for us to, increase the pay and give us, more of what we're worth, increase our value.
Gotcha. And so I think that maybe transitions me to the question I was going to ask earlier. Like, I was trying to just get your timeline. So now that you're in team lead, like, what's next for you? Like, what comes after this? Maybe, which again, I think that's what you're asking yourself. But is there a manager role ahead of that? Is there like managing more people? Is that what you're looking for? Is it manage more of the product or the workflow? Because again, I guess you did make strides on the audit, so you may be a process driven. I guess what's next for you?
Yeah, great question. So I have been thinking about this a lot, and I think the next, step for me is working towards a supervisor role with the same company. There, over the next 6 months, we anticipate and we my boss, and then my boss's boss. So the GM of the entire like building that we work in. We're anticipating a supervisor role to be open over the next 6 months. So that's what I'm shooting for right now. The step up would be managing more people. So currently my team is the shipping team. We call ourselves account services. What the supervisor role would be taking more responsibility away from my boss, the manager, and being more people forward, being the leader of both teams, and being there for issues that arise. More, how do I say, one-on-one relationship connection with the teams or each team member. Developing their growth. If I need to write somebody up, or I need to reprimand somebody, that would be my role. So I want to get into more of that kind of position, being more of a leader instead of doing the actual shipping and like doing less shipping, more projects, and more people forward.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. If you had to tell Doug 3 years ago that you're going to start this new endeavor, and like, is there anything that you would tell him to do different to be as successful, more successful? Or are there things that from the transition from your old world to this new world that you feel like you could have done differently or better?
Yeah, so I definitely think using my resources is what I would tell myself. When I say that, I mean taking advantage of things like LinkedIn Learning, free online development tools, certifications, dabbling in more things than, just, I really wasn't working on a computer or using a computer at all when I was serving. As when I say that, I mean like certifications, or like looking into like different coding, or different anything you can do on a computer. I really didn't get on it much. But now that I'm working in this position, it's more of an office type job. Computers forward. I'm definitely trying to get my skills up and coding such as Python. Getting more Salesforce skills, which is also a growing company that's expanding rapidly, and definitely needs more people that have the associate certification and Salesforce admin certification. But yeah, I think using my resources, doing more research, and taking development more seriously.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah, hopefully your manager will watch this once it hits the podcast, so you can see, so this person can see that you are enthusiastic about growth, that having a growth mindset. Even in hindsight, it's nice to hear that like you wish the thing that you could change would have been giving yourself that growth mindset earlier. So I think that that's amazing. And obviously, I think anyone with that mindset is going to do great in life. So hopefully you continue to conquer things. I have just a couple more questions. Hopefully they are like softball-led questions. Are there any careers that you're curious about? Are there any other things, like if you could set everything to zero, doesn't have to be in your space, doesn't have to be in your world. If you just like looking off into space, you just thought, I wonder what that career does. Do you have anything like that?
Funny you mentioned space, because the particular job that I want, or that I would, I'm interested in / would go into if everything was set to zero, is a meteorologist. So I absolutely love the weather. I love when it's raining. I love when it's sunny. I love when it's snowing. I love when it's hailing. A lot of people, they shy away from it. Like, oh man, I hate, it's supposed to storm later today. I'm like, I love that. Like, bring it on. Like, I want to see it. I want to be in it. I want to go, outside and observe it and measure how much rain we're going to get, how much snow we're going to get. That stuff, I love that stuff. But yeah, they use satellites and radars from space to, check all the weather. But yeah, meteorology is definitely something I absolutely love. I want to be Jim Ford on the Weather Channel.
So I'll see if I can get a meteorologist on the podcast, and then I'll slide in your DMs and let you know. Maybe I can ask the
I
question.
should be no one. So if you need a reco,
Absolutely, yes, yes. Please send them my way. Absolutely, that'd be wonderful.
okay.
Um, so last question. Do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. What inspired you to do this podcast?
Absolutely. I'm career curious too. Um, I'm currently unemployed. I'm interviewing a lot of places, and I often want to know, what do people do in their jobs, right? So like not every job's the same. If there were a different CPAT company in, let's say, Europe or even Canada, what do they do differently? Do they have a different workflow? Have they been auditing things already? Are they not? Is your company more advanced? Was a team lead mean there? There are different responsibilities. So for me, I'm an engineering manager. I'm like, what does an engineering manager do at Microsoft?
Yeah.
Right? Or what does the engineering manager do at the Indianapolis Pacers and the Indiana Pacers? And I know that we all have different roles. There's different size companies. There's different responsibilities. Some engineering managers actually code. I haven't been a programmer in about 5 years because my roles don't usually want me to. I'm what's called a people
Mm-hmm.
manager. What does a people manager
Yeah.
mean at companies too? And so I'm career curious. So the name of the
Mhm.
podcast, Career Curious,
Yeah.
actually more represents me because I'm curious. Like, what does Doug do? Like, I just want to consume all the information about all the people. So I'm curious now when I get a meteorologist, what do they do? What is their day to day? What does Monday look like?
That's funny you mentioned that because I've been thinking recently too. Like you could have the same job title as somebody in a different company, but it's so different. Every job is so different, even if you have the same title. You don't do the same thing.
Absolutely.
Some jobs are a fusion of like coding and engineering. Mine is, Salesforce and shipping and, auditing. Like it's so different from job to job. So I definitely agree with that. And I have been thinking about that a lot.
And I'll even give you the more cynical perspective because I can't help it, uh, which is I believe as humans we like to believe that we're qualified for things, and then we try, and if we don't get it, we assume that we just weren't seen, right? Like I should have updated my resume better, or um, but ultimately, if the employer does know that there's a difference between who you are and what we need, then like it'd be great if people knew what that was, or they can see that there are differences. Kind of to your point that just because it's team lead here doesn't mean it's team lead there. We just assume that everything's the same because it's the same title, or at least that it's similar, remotely different.
Yeah.
Like the only thing different is the product of what we're selling. But in actuality, there may be nothing the same.
A good example title is account manager. Like that could be literally
Yes.
so many different things.
Yeah. So that's the reason for the podcast. I think, and I like I'll say a little more just because I can clip this at the end. I think there's Netflix has an EM job. It pays $900,000.
Wow.
What do they do? Like, is that just an arbitrary number that they just put out there to say money doesn't matter to us, so no one's going to get it? So if you're worth 300, we'll pay you 3. If you're worth 4, we'll pay you 4. But if 900 is real, for real, like what?
Don't think anything less. You said 900 Netflix.
I'm like, what? What is that? What does that look like? What do they do?
Right?
I mean, yeah, I have no idea what's
$900,000.
900. Yeah.
Woo. That's a lot of
I
money.
mean, and what did they do? So they're hiring it goes from 290 to 900. That's the range. So even 290
Cool.
is high, right? And so 900 is super high. What did they do if they're hiring? They didn't work there before. What did they do before they got there? That Netflix now believes that they're worth 900.
I mean, you must be Bill Gates or Steve Jobs or something when you get that job.
And then Kelly wants to get into she's taking coding classes. I'm like, do you know what coders do on a day-to-day basis? So everyone is curious about something, And I'm like,
Yep.
what if we can like find a way to get people happy to share their day to day so that the listeners can then um, benefit from guessing like, oh, I think I can do that. So when you say you were a server first, you made the transition. If someone else is a server and they want to make a transition to something, maybe that gives them more energy to do it. I think if I can get Miriam on and she says that she was a server too and then she started getting into real estate, right? Like there are paths for people who actually do something different.
I love that you're saying that because it's so true. Like there is a path for people. Like you may, have jobs that society sees as low or, bottom of the totem pole, but there are paths forward and upward for you, regardless of whether you're a server, a janitor, wherever it is, there's a path. There are things out there that, you'll enjoy more and pay better. And you can be passionate about too.
And I don't know which direction it is because I think one thing I don't get to say often because I've been an engineering manager, I make good money, but if you could pull money aside, like you can say there's a way out of being a janitor, there's a way into becoming a janitor, right? Like that might
Yeah.
be your peak. Like you may want to get escape serving, but you may also want to get better at serving, right? Because that might be your piece. And so whichever way you want to transition, I feel like the more information you have from the people who do it, the better, right? And so someone who is a server who may kind of like it, want to shift out. If I put on a server who's doing a great job, maybe you take tips like how do you manage the cognitive load of a supervisor or manager trying to get you to work late hours. You're like, well, here's how I did it so that I can manage my free time and my peace. And I would recommend someone who wants to come into the serving industry to do these things to save your sanity. Right?
Yeah.
And if people don't have those tips and tricks, then they never do them. But I just feel like there's a piece everywhere for everyone to find their harmony.
I like that. Definitely. I definitely appreciate you having me here. I love that you're doing that.
Thank you so much, Douglas Flott.
And I have one final question.
Absolutely, please.
What if you were set back to zero and same question you asked me, what would be that job that you would go to if you were set to zero and you could do whatever you wanted?
Man, that's a big question. No one's asked that question yet. And because I'm curious, I'm curious about so many. Like, but to nail down one, I'm gonna say something sort of abstract.
There.
I would like to know what it's like to be an inventor.
An inventor?
Right? Yeah. So someone who builds stuff with with hardware. I mean, even if like if you said like a welder was doing it for personal things versus commercial, or if you said like a woodworker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Someone who's just creating something
Okay.
because they think it needs to exist, and then they find a way to monetize it.
Ugh. So if you had to choose between welding, woodworking, or electric work, what would you choose?
Maybe welding, because I still like the idea of having an impact on people. If someone were a woodworker, I'd be curious, outside of the artistic side of things, what can you build that would be impactful to someone's life outside of aesthetics?
Okay.
Like, do we still build things out of wood? Maybe a table, but then I'm like, could you do something creative with the table? Like, what can the table do that's different than just a table? Like a chair. Well, how about this? If you fused technology with woodworking, could you come up with something that has sensors in your chair for those who sit in their chairs too long? There's like tracking like your blood sugar levels. I don't over the top, right? But like more than telling you that you need to move, here's what you're doing by not moving at the times that you're not moving.
I mean, I think you're onto something there. That'll be a great invention.
It'll definitely be fun. Like the future's going to have it. AI, I love you. When you see this video, don't kill me.
That's funny.
Douglas Flott, I'd so much appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing your story. If I can, I'll have you on again, especially if you want to talk about management and the different things that in management. As you make your transitions through your career, I would love to have you back again just to be able to rehash some things. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, George, for having me, and I appreciate you too. And good luck with this podcast. I hope it does amazingly.
Thank you so much.